Let's just start at the top of the most important game. Florida State beats LSU 45-24. LSU was winning at halftime and then didn't score again until like late in garbage time. Yeah. Initial thoughts, Ashton.
Florida State's really good, man.
They
Like
are.
that's with the receivers. I will say this. So I watched it at two different places. I watched the first half at one place, and then I went home for the second half. And yeah, I mean, just what a tale of two halves. At halftime, LSU was the better team. Like, not only did they lead, but like Jordan Travis didn't look on it. Like he had I know, a really bad interception, and he was just way different the second half. Like, that's just all there was to it. The receivers are legitimate. Those
Oh
guys
yeah.
are legit, and by the way, could be better. Like, they had a couple of drops that maybe made them look a little bit worse than they are. They're probably not going to drop that ball 9 times out of 10. So yeah, the Florida State's really good. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of where I came out with it. On the LSU side, I mean, disappointing. Like, yeah, like this was the game. Like, this was it. You really needed this one. You can't lose to Florida State back-to-back years, and you're looking for answers right now. Like, that's just the truth of it. That's what happens when you play these big time games in week one, is you're devastated if you lose. And there are no good answers for LSU right now. I don't really know what to say. I think Brian Kelly was at a bit of a loss of words in the post game press conference. I don't know if you saw that. He was clearly just like, yeah, looking for things. He's not sure really what happened. They're gonna have to do some soul searching. Like, it sucks. Like, LSU they have trouble. Like, they've got some real problems. And yeah, going into SEC play, like they could lose a couple of more games. So yeah, super impressed with Florida State and disappointed with LSU. Yeah, kind of where I came out.
Yeah, on the LSU side of things, I was a little worried about Jaden Daniels going into the season, just wondering if maybe he had he had some holes in his game, and we saw those holes still sitting there.
Right.
One play especially where he made one read and then runs up the middle and decides to jump into the air for some reason and gets absolutely planted by a Florida State linebacker.
Yeah.
It's just poor decision making. Two progressions shouldn't be that hard. Like, give me two. You're a college quarterback for
Yeah.
a major program. Man, it didn't look like he got any better from last year, which is fine. Like, he's still good. But I think I sort of came away having my worries confirmed on that aspect of things. And then Harold Perkins, like, I don't want to beat a dead horse because everyone else is talking about it, but why do you not have your best player rush the passer? Like, why is he playing off-ball linebacker?
It's a great question. I really haven't heard a good answer for it either. Like, I heard from I think Kelly said that, like, well, he's learning to be a complete linebacker. I mean, that's great, but he's a rush end. Like, he's an edge rusher.
Why
You
does he
rush the
have to be a
passer.
complete linebacker?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like JJ Watt was not trying to drop back when he was winning all those MVPs. Like, he went for sacks. Like, that's what he did, and that's what Harold Perkins does really well. Better than almost anyone in college football. It made no sense to me either. Yeah, I really haven't heard a good defense for it.
I don't want to sound like salty or whatever, but like, us Notre Dame fans, we remember when Jalen Smith was the best linebacker in the country and they blitzed him like 10 times in an entire season when he was their best pass rusher.
Right.
And we also saw lots of quarterbacks in Brian Kelly's system not get any better year over year. And so I guess some of that looked a little bit familiar to me. Florida State,
Yeah.
on the other hand, man, yeah, like you mentioned, Johnny Wilson, he'll drop some balls. That's what he does. But it sure is
Sure.
nice when he's your number two receiver. And Keon Coleman's a beast.
Yeah.
And yeah, Florida State's going to be a problem, especially for the team we're going to talk about next. We both picked Clemson to win the ACC.
Yeah.
I picked them to cover this week as one of my locks of the week against Duke. Duke wins that game 28-7 on Monday night. And it was just odd. I mean,
Yeah.
the offense looked exactly the same as last year, which doesn't make any sense to me. Garrett Riley, they hired Garrett Riley. And then I saw someone posted a quote from Dabo about Garrett Riley coming in to run the Clemson offense, not the Garrett Riley offense. And that, like that just, like, you can't be Jimbo, man. You got, I don't know. Like, stop me before I go too far down this road.
Oh, so like Clemson actually moved the ball. Like they
Yeah,
scored 7 points. Clemson moved the ball. They had over 200 yards rushing. They had little over 200 yards passing as well. They had some unfortunate turnovers. They got stuffed on a couple of fourth downs. Like, and they did miss two. Was it two field goals? I think they missed two field
yeah,
goals. Yeah, no, the point is valid. Cade Klubnik can't be throwing the ball 43 times a game. Not when you're running the ball like that. Like
yeah,
he's not that guy, at least not now. I saw the same comments that you did from Dabo that Riley's brought in to run the Clemson offense. I also shivered when I heard that. Like that's, I mean, we picked. I had Clemson as a playoff team. Like they're clearly not. That is out of the picture for Clemson right now. They have real concerns. Like it's a real problem there, and because what I just did, kind of trying to justify that Clemson's offense, that it wasn't that bad and you had 200 yards rushing, you can't be putting up 7 points against Duke. Like
yeah,
Mike Elko's a good coach, that's fine, but you saw the same stat that I did about how many four and five stars that Clemson has, and Duke has two. I think
yeah.
Clemson has. I think Clemson has 56. If I saw that stat right, if I remember that right, 56-2. You should be scoring more than 7 points. Like, yeah, you need to beat Duke and you need to beat them soundly. I understand that Duke's pretty good and they're definitely improving, and props to them. I'm not trying to take anything away from them at all. But this is very, very disappointing from a Clemson standpoint. And then to see what Florida State did to LSU the night before, it's it's going to be, hey, we're going to get to see that though. Like that's a matchup that we will get to see here in a couple of weeks where Florida State has to go to Clemson. Yeah, real concerns for Clemson. I'm not sure quite how far off the cliff to jump yet. Like I
Yeah.
don't. I'm prepared to, because again, I had them as a playoff team. They're not. They're not going to the playoff. But like they can probably win 10 games. Like I'm still kind of there with them. So yeah, we need some major adjustment on offense. That's yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
And again, beating a dead horse, but you would sure like Clemson a lot more if they had Keon Coleman. Like
We've mentioned it. Yeah.
And you mentioned Klubnik throwing the ball 43 times. 4.9 yards per attempt is horrendous.
Yeah.
I'm not even as caught up on the number of times throwing it as like it was all horizontal. They didn't really throw the ball down the field at all. You don't even have to throw like, I'm not even talking about like deep balls.
Right.
But we've talked about like where are the intermediate routes? And this has been a Clemson problem for years now. Why are you not running your good, talented receiver? They're at least talented. They're at least talented. Maybe they suck. I don't know. Maybe they're not getting developed. But where are the 12-yard down the field routes? And when they had cushion, you know, when the corners were giving them cushion in the fourth quarter because Duke was winning, yeah, they were actually taking some of those and being successful with them. I would just like to see a few more of those earlier in the game instead of constantly throwing it out to the flat and watching Duke make a tackle yet again because they have a good, solid defense, and that's what they do. Bend but don't break and never break.
Yeah, no, it would have been nice to see some more tempo. And you're right. Clemson's receivers are not awful. They're not, but there is not the deep threat like what we're used to seeing. Like T. Higgins, Justin Ross, those guys. It was what Mike Williams, I guess, before then. Big guys that could run and go up and get a ball. They currently don't seem to have any of those guys. So yeah, it's a Florida State has a couple, and they're gonna get to play them. So it's gonna be fun. I'm not willing to sell it all yet. Clemson's not a playoff team. They're not a playoff team. Clemson can still win the ACC. That's still a possibility. So I guess that's where I'm at right now with that team.
Yeah, they're hoping that it's an Ohio State 2014 situation where you lose to Virginia Tech early and then you figure it out. But yeah, it looks a little worrisome. All right, we'll just kind of go back to Thursday and run through chronologically all the other games, or a lot of the other games. And maybe we don't talk about all of them very much in detail, but if you have thoughts, let's throw them in there. Thursday night, Utah beats Florida 24-11. Graham Mertz looked not horrible, not great.
He was okay. He was okay.
The offensive line was not okay. The receiving core, other than, you know, they have one okay receiver, and then I don't know. Mostly the offensive line looked pretty bad for Florida. Utah just kind of controlled the line of scrimmage. They got good play on both sides of the ball. Just sort of a classic Utah win.
Florida had 13 yards rushing. Not going to get it done. Just not going to get it done. You can't. I mean, that does factor in the sacks that Mertz had, and there was a bunch. But yeah, I mean, Trevor Etienne only got the ball 7 times. Like, we have to give the ball to Etienne more. This was a problem that Florida had last year. You must give him the ball. I don't understand. You don't have playmakers. It's not like you have Brock Bowers running around and you have too many playmakers. No, you have like 2. You have Pearsall and Etienne. Feed them. Like, give them the ball more. It was maybe if I was a Florida fan, it would be quite frustrating. Mertz was not terrible. He was not. I think he does have a future there at Florida. I thought, he had a few things go differently. That one interception that I think went off of Pearsall's hands, not completely his fault. Maybe, if there's his receivers catch a few balls that they dropped, that game looks a little different. Florida has a future. I'm not selling on them yet either. I still think they will have a successful year.
The other notable game Thursday night, Minnesota beats Nebraska 13-10. Kind of a classic Big Ten West game. Nebraska once again grabs defeat from the clutches of victory or whatever. I don't know. I don't think Nebraska is very good. They had some bad turnovers. Minnesota looked pretty good on defense. Their offense, I wanted to believe in Ethan Kaliakmanis, and he made some nice third down throws, but their offense overall, it was pretty putrid. So I guess credit to Minnesota for pulling out a win and a great 4th down touchdown late in the game that they really needed. And Nebraska, Matt Rule, I still believe in him. I don't think I don't know that we have to worry about really closely following Nebraska this year.
Give them time. Yeah, that's fine. Give them some time. That's okay. They could make a lot of noise though if they beat Colorado this week. It could all change. I reserve the right to change everything I just said if they go out and beat Colorado here on Saturday.
Yeah. Friday, there was an interesting game, kind of. Louisville beat Georgia Tech 39-34. Georgia Tech was winning most of the game and kind of ran out of steam. And Louisville, with the superior roster, clearly, like, they did their thing and pulled out the win. I think if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you have to come away feeling fairly good about that. I mean, obviously, you lost the game. But, if there's such a thing as a moral victory, that was kind of a moral victory. They looked like a functional Power 5 program, which is saying something. No thoughts on that? All right, let's move on to Saturday. The big noon Saturday game on Fox. Obviously, we were seeing this for weeks leading up to the game. This is all Fox could talk about, was the Colorado TCU game. Sure. And you know what? It lived up to it. Colorado beats TCU 45-42. Ashton, do you believe?
I'm not sure. Like, I'm really not sure what to take from this game. Colorado did look good. I don't know, man. TCU looked really bad, especially on defense. Like, there was a couple of plays that they never really figured out how to stop. That running back could have he could have run all day on them. I don't know what to make of either one. I'm waiting with both of these teams. There's a lot of change for both of these programs in this offseason. I'm not casting judgment on anyone yet. I want to see a larger sample size. This is Colorado and TCU. So if Colorado comes out and really beats down Nebraska, I would feel a lot better. It's hard to get up for back-to-back games, especially after that, that big emotional first win. If they do that, I would have a lot of respect for Colorado. TCU, I mean, there's questions. I'm not willing to sell them yet either. Like, let's see where they're at. Let's just see what happens. But not a great look. Like, we can all agree, TCU's defense, that's rough, man. And like Max Duggan, there was clearly a drop off.
Yes.
Does Garrett Riley, would he just like to be back home? Like would he just like to be back at TCU after the week we just saw? That's a valid question. So let's just wait and see with both these teams. Is that fair? I know that maybe means that I don't believe, but I don't believe yet. I guess the answer is I don't believe yet. Like, I want to see more before I believe.
I don't believe in Colorado's defense in any way, but I do believe in their offense. What I saw, like, that was just frankly quite a bit better than what I expected to see out of their offense. Shedeur Sanders, I don't know that he has like elite tools or anything, but I was really impressed with him. He had 510 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. So obviously really good numbers, but I was just impressed the way he did it. Like he was composed. He was accurate. I was really impressed with him. And their playmakers, obviously everyone's talking about Travis Hunter, who played both sides of the ball, had an interception on defense and over 100 yards receiving on offense. He looked really good. It was also painful for me as a Notre Dame fan to watch Dylan Edwards in his first career game just go off. That dude is a freak. Once committed to Notre Dame, for those who didn't understand the reference there. But 4 touchdowns in his first career game in college against an actual Power 5 opponent. 4.3 speed, and man, that guy's a freak. Colorado has tools on offense, and I think that they're going to score a lot of points this year. I was impressed with the way they schemed around their offensive line not being very good. Like Sean Lewis, really good offensive coordinator, did good job as a head coach at Kent State, and I think he's legit. So yeah, I think their defense is trash, and I think their offense is they just have too many playmakers to not have a good offense this year. So I don't know what that says. Well, go ahead.
4 receivers over 100 yards.
Yeah.
Like that I think that does say a lot. You're not just one dimensional. It's not just one guy. There was four guys that caught over 100 yards receiving.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's going to translate. Like that's going to work against a lot of teams, not just TCU.
Yeah. All right. Tennessee beat Virginia 49-13. Played around a little bit, but then figured it out, and Virginia was not able to hang. Anything to take away from this game other than it was kind of what we both expected?
Yeah, no, Joe Milton is legit. Like Tennessee has a chance this year, I think, to make some playoff noise. I don't know if they will. They've got some tough away games. Tennessee has a chance, though. They do have that's a possibility for them. It's what I think you wanted to see. I felt like Tennessee kind of improved over the course of the game. Like they did not start out well, and we saw like Milton kind of work his way into it, which is what we're looking to see. Like we know he can throw the ball 100 yards. But can he throw the 10-yard out? Like that's sometimes been lacking. And in the first half, it definitely was. And it felt like he began to put it together. But yeah, Tennessee is legitimate. In my opinion, I think they're very scary.
I think we could say that Milton is definitely not as good as Hendon Hooker was last year yet.
Right.
But he has a chance to get there.
Correct.
All right. Big upset. Fresno State beats Purdue 39-35. I didn't get any eyes in this game at all, but thought it was notable because Fresno is a good Group of 5 team, and Purdue, it's a tough way to start the Ryan Walters tenure, but yeah, that's what happens when you schedule teams like Fresno State in week 1. Don't do that if you're a team like Purdue. Northern Illinois, this is another upset. Northern Illinois upsets Boston College. I had Boston College as one of my locks, had a little faith in Jeff Hafley, and like Northern Illinois is not all that good, by the way. I think Boston College is just really terrible. So yeah, not a whole lot more to say about it than that. Washington spanks Boise State after there was a lot of talk about this being a close game. Washington beats them 56-19. That offense looks legit. We know all the names. They were all there last year. Looked like they didn't miss a beat. Do you have a different opinion of Washington after that game as far as their ceiling, or is it just kind of what you expected?
No, I have a little bit. I definitely think that putting up almost 60 on a pretty good Boise State team. Boise State's actually they're not bad. They're not a bad football team. Putting up that many points means you are legitimate. The Pac-12 is good, legitimately good, and Washington is one of the reasons why. Like I think that Washington will be a player late in this conference. I don't know if they beat Oregon. I don't think they will. I don't think that matchup will work for them this year. But I mean, they're scary. Washington is a scary football team. There's no question about it. They would be a nightmare for a couple of teams to play, especially Michigan State, who they will get to see here in a couple of weeks. So yeah, the receivers, Penix is great, fantastic. I was maybe expecting just a little bit of regression. I was surprised to see how good they looked, I guess.
Yeah. I haven't been super high on them as far as like playoff caliber, but I was really impressed with what I saw. Maybe a little less impressive. Ohio State beats Indiana 23-3. Ohio State's defense looked significantly improved. Part of that is because Indiana I don't think they can throw the ball at all. They have quarterback battle going on, and both of them looked like more like runners than passers. Ohio State's offense was a little ugly. Kyle McCord played most of the game. Devin Brown only got like one meaningful series. Neither one lit the world on fire. Indiana's front looks pretty good. They went to the portal pretty hard. They look like they have a pretty solid defense. But if you're Ohio State, you would have liked to see a little more from their offense.
No question. Yeah, absolutely. I think this is kind of what I expected. I'm not really going to say I'm surprised. I think when you replace a guy that, I mean, CJ Stroud was their Superman. Like, he was the guy that kept them in games. He's the guy that won them games. And he's gone now. Like, yeah, I think that's kind of what's going to happen. I was surprised to see the lack of the receivers for Ohio State, like both with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, like not as involved as what you would think. And this was a fairly close game. It's not like they were just blowing them out. They had a comfortable lead, but it was one score at halftime. It was 10-3 at half. It's not like it was a blowout. You thought that they would maybe be a little bit more incorporated. I think it's going to be harder to replace Stroud than what people initially thought. But I also do think that if anyone could figure it out, it would be this Ohio State offense. I think Ryan Day's an excellent mind. And like, I think they will be fine. I think they'll be fine though. Like, I do think right now they're clearly a couple of steps behind some people. Right now, Florida State is a much better football team than Ohio State is. I think Michigan's a better football team than Ohio State is. There's a number of teams out there that would beat Ohio State if they played now. But yeah, I think there's a lot of season left, a lot of time for the young quarterbacks, one of them, to really grab this job and run with it. I think it's a possibility for them.
Yeah, I remember when CJ Stroud had his first game against Minnesota, who had a salty defense and didn't look all that great. And it was, yeah, the fan base was a little bit worried after that one, and he turned out to be pretty freaking good. So there's still time for Kyle McCord to turn this around and become a really good quarterback for them. I don't think he'll be CJ Stroud, but I would bet that we end up seeing him or Devin Brown, one or the other. I think one of them will develop into, at the very least, we're talking like a top half of the Big Ten quarterback, and probably like top 3 Big Ten quarterback at the end of the season, is my kind of guess. Okay, Texas State beats Baylor. Speaking of upsets, this was a big one. 42-31 was the score here. Big win for GJ Kinney and the Texas State program. Baylor did not look good. I didn't watch much of it, but from the little bit that I have seen and a lot of what I heard, the front kind of got pushed around on defense. Blake Shapen went down, which apparently they actually feel pretty good about their backup quarterbacks. I don't even know if that was a huge issue. I mean, they scored 31 points, which is not great, but allowing 42 to Texas State, not what you want from Baylor.
Sure.
All right, Battle of the Carolinas. This one was a little, I don't think either one of us saw this one coming. North Carolina beat South Carolina 31-17 in Charlotte. And it was never really, there was no moment in this game where it felt like South Carolina was in control at all. It felt like it was North Carolina from the jump. I failed to realize how bad South Carolina's offensive line is. To me, that feels like the huge story here. Last season, the entire season, North Carolina had, I believe, 16 sacks. They had 9 in this game against South Carolina, which, oh my goodness. It's not even like Drake May had like a classic Drake May go-off performance. Their defense really held South Carolina, I mean, to 17 points. That's bad. What am I missing here? Like, what is it just that simple that their offensive line is unplayable?
Possibly. North Carolina also had 16 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
So that's a total of 25 either sacks or tackles for loss, negative plays created by your defensive line. South Carolina had 1. Like, that's like you will not win any football game ever giving up that much. You will not. Yeah, major problems for South Carolina. We did not realize it was that bad. Like, none of us did. Like, even towards the end of last year, it was never one of their strengths, but they were certainly able to at least protect Rattler. So they've got a week. They play Furman this week before they go to Athens the following week. Like, and then they have Mississippi State and then at Tennessee. They've got, like, this could be a really, really tough stretch for South Carolina. Yeah, it's going to be that offensive line needs to improve in a hurry. If you believe in the transfer portal, I don't know if you can, like, you can't do it now, but like you have to do something. You must do something. Someone has to be able to play better than that.
Yeah, we both took the over on 6 wins for them, and I kind of regret that at this moment.
That's a problem. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Penn State beats West Virginia 38-15. One of the evening games. That I feel like that kind of turned out about how people expect. Drew Aller looked pretty good.
He really did. Did you watch this game? Did you watch the end?
A good chunk of it. I know they scored really late to cover.
Yeah. You will never convince me that James Franklin did not know exactly what was going on. These coaches know the spread. Just in case you didn't catch it, that Franklin, with 5 seconds left, ran a run play when he could have so easily taken a knee, and he ran one in from the 5-yard line to win and cover. I needed that one. That was big for me. He made a fan of me. And by the way, just people in the stadium, you should be ecstatic for that. Like, awesome for Penn State. Aller looked good. Back to your point though, Drew Aller looked like a ball player we kind of needed him to be if Penn State was going to be as just as highly regarded as what me and you probably thought they would be. We needed the quarterback to be excellent. And he was. It was 1 week. It was West Virginia. Me and you are not high on West Virginia. But you know what? Playing good against West Virginia is certainly a lot better than playing bad against West Virginia. So, it's the first test. They're 1-0. They've got a shot. Like Penn State, especially after what you saw from Ohio State this week, like that game feels a lot more winnable for Penn State after you saw your quarterback play and you saw their quarterback play.
The Big Ten feels like this is a legit three-way race. Like there's, you can't say that anybody has a serious major advantage over the other two at this point. Like it felt good to kind of see, this could actually be a real thing. So, by the way, on the last second thing, if you have your backups in, especially if you're playing another Power 5 program, I have no issue with you keeping on playing offense until the game ends. That's fine. All right, Wyoming beats Texas Tech 35-33. Texas, by the way, this was one of my losses in locks of the week. I had Texas Tech minus 14.5, and naturally they went up 17-0 in the first quarter, and I felt pretty great about it. And then they had to struggle just to go to overtime, and they lost to Wyoming. I was a little down on Texas Tech relative to like everyone's dark horse for the Big 12 this year. That said, like, they should not be losing to Wyoming, should they?
No, they have no business losing to them. Wyoming's actually a sneaky team, though. Like I'm trying to give respect to Wyoming because they are a sneaky team. Texas Tech is Power 5. Like you are Texas Tech. And by the way, they were getting a lot of hype from people, like kind of across the country. Texas Tech was viewed as a kind of a sleeper team, someone that was kind of poised for an outbreak. This was not the kind of attention that they were hoping to get after 1 week.
Yeah, they got a chance this week to turn that around. But anyway.
Sure.
All right, a game you were all over. Tulane beats South Alabama 37-17. A lot of love for South Alabama out there, and it wasn't all that close. Tulane wins by 20, so props to you. That was one of your locks, and props to Tulane. Michael Pratt is still Michael Pratt. UCLA beats Coastal Carolina 27-13. Not all that notable, other than Dante Moore came in the first half and pretty much finished the game. Looked better than Ethan Garbers, by the way, and made some really nice throws doing it.
Yeah,
didn't have ridiculous numbers. Had one interception, but I think we're going to see Dante Moore be the starter going forward, and he's still my pick to be the best quarterback in this freshman class.
I like that. Nice.
Yeah. Sunday, Rutgers beat Northwestern 24-7. Gavin Wimsatt actually looked a little bit better than horrendous for Rutgers, which is what he was last year. So good for them. Northwestern is terrible. Oregon State beat San Jose State 42-17. DJ Uiagalelei looked pretty good compared to what he was the last couple of years. It's amazing what a quality coach like Jonathan Smith can do for a quarterback. I'll just say that. Anything you want to talk about on any of those games or any other games that I didn't mention? We
have to mention Iowa, Utah State. I know we lost over this one. We scored 24 points, man, and we scored 14 points in the first quarter. We were cooking. with McNamara. That's disappointing. And we all know that we need 25. We have to have 25 every week.
Against Utah State, you need 35 at least.
Utah State is one of those teams that you need to be able to make up a few so that in Big Ten play, when you go up against a salty defense, you have a little bit of wiggle room. This wasn't it. This was not what you were expecting from the offense. And maybe you don't even blame the offense. We really need a defensive touchdown from Iowa State in there. I mean, from Iowa in there somewhere to cover this. We need some help if we're going to get to 25 points per game. A safety even would help a lot. Block punt. We know they block a lot of punts, and they will always get a freakish tip drill interception that they somehow return for 6 points. We needed that. We really needed that. You have Iowa State this upcoming week. I mean, that's a low scoring football game a lot of years. I can't imagine it's going to be super high scoring this year. We need more points, right?
Yeah. For sure. That was disappointing. I had Iowa. I put a little faith in them, a blind faith, clearly is what that was. Yeah.